Welcome everybody to the fourth video in our 10-part modding tutorial video series. I am Willem Delventhal, game designer on the team at Paradox Tectonic, here to teach you how to do modding in Life by You. We are splitting these 10 videos into 3 distinct sections: decoration and personalization, which we just finished. The last 3 videos are up and live if you want to go watch those. Lots and world design, which is what we're starting today. We're going to mess around with lots, and then later we're going to talk about custom gameplay for the more advanced modders out there. So like I said, today is lots, meaning building buildings and other things that you might get placed into the world. And remember, important distinction here is that everything might change as we add improvements and upgrades to the game. All right, let's talk lots. All right, by now we know how to make a new lot. All we got to do is go into the editor menu and then push that nice green plus button at the top of the screen there, and then name our mod anything we want. I am going to be making a sort of magical purple building today, so I'm going to go ahead and call it Willem's Magical Potion Stand, which you will be able to download from the mod site when we get there. So you can think of lots as essentially a lot in real life. It's a plot of land that we can use in a number of different ways. We can actually leave them empty for the player to fill with whatever the heck they want, and there are some empty lots in the current lot list. We can also put a pre-existing house there, so the player can move into something that already exists, and we can put businesses and cafes and shops and all that other fun stuff in a lot as well. You can see that some of the lots in the world exist right here, and you can, in fact, edit them. So I could open up the car dealership and change that up, and that change would actually propagate into what we call the region, which is the actual world, which we'll talk about in the next video. Today, though, we're going to make an entirely new lot. So I want you to hit that green plus button one more time, and then let's get started making that custom lot. Now that we've made a new lot, we can go ahead and start actually customizing it. And the first thing we're going to do is make a name for it. We can make the backend name, or how it will get saved in our editor, on the left-hand side there. And of course, I'm going to call mine Magic Potion Stand. And then we can change the display name, which is what players will actually see in the game, up in the top right. We can also add a description if we wish to make this place a little bit more obvious what it is. We sell potions, and we can add an icon. Now, for anything that you're unsure of what to set, you can definitely just go check existing objects that we've already created. So in this case, a cafe, and we can see that we use this icon cafe as the icon in the game. The icon gets used on the minimap. So this is how your lot will actually appear on the minimap. It will look like a cafe icon, which kind of makes sense to me. This is like a magic potion place, right? This set glam cam location to current is an interesting little button. Basically, however you are currently viewing the lot, like literally how your camera looks when you click set glam cam, that's how the camera will look at your lot for any cases where it needs to. So if it's showing a miniature version of your lot, for instance, that set glam cam is what will do it. The tags there are the last thing. For the most part, tags get used by the AI and a couple of other sorting things, similar to the objects we talked about. So for the most part, you can just copy the tags that exist on buildings that sound about right to you, that are similar to what you're making. Next, there is lot size. Lot size, it makes a lot of sense. It's basically just how big that lot is. We can make it mostly as big as we want or as small as we want. We're going to keep it with the default 25 by 25. Next is the starter lot. That indicates whether or not this lot will be available as an entry-level home for players. Then we've got our lot shop. This is probably one of the more interesting ones. This is what is available for sale on this lot. And these shops are things that we actually create in another editor menu, which I will show you later in this video. For the sake of showing you how to do hookup, I am going to select the Main Street Cafe, so we're going to be able to sell anything that the Main Street Cafe can. Next, we've got our public checkbox, which just means characters are allowed to use this space as a public space. They'll just walk right in and use the bathroom. Then we've got our workplace checkbox. This is one of the most interesting ones and is also more advanced. So I'm not really going to cover it in this video, but this is actually how we make it so that characters can be employed at this location. They can actually have jobs like a barista or something like that at this lot, which is super cool. And you absolutely can add this to your lots. You can make workers who go to this lot, or even make it so the player can get a job at this lot. But that's definitely more advanced. So what I recommend you do is go play with some of those workplace events and try to figure out how it works. And of course, you've got the Discord and other support platforms to figure out things like that. All right, so that's going to be as much as we set up here for the sake of this sort of example lot. Now let's actually start building the lot and make it beautiful. So whenever we start a new lot and then we hit edit, the game is going to ask us to either make a single box or start placing walls. I am going to start with a single box in this specific build. I have a pretty good idea of what I'm making here, so I'm going to make a 10 by 10 box, which I do have to count out here. There we go. That should be 10 by 10. All right, so we're going to start with a 10 by 10 box, and you'll see that it just automatically makes walls, and that we could, if we wanted to, start painting this world. But what I'm going to do before anything else is I'm going to finish the structure of this building, and then I'm going to do a little bit more after that. So in order to move up to the next floor, because I am imagining kind of a tower here, we can hit these buttons in the top of the screen to move up and down floors. I could then select the box icon again, or I can do wall by wall, which is what I'm thinking I'm going to do, because I've got a kind of cool idea of what I'm going to do here. I'm going to do a 4, and then I think a 3, and then click, and then a 4 again, and then a 3, and then, is that right? Yes. And then a 4, and then a 3, and then a 4. Can you see what I'm going for yet? And then a 3. Yes, the master octagon. Wait, is that an octagon? Yes, that's an octagon. And then I'm actually going to go up a floor again. And by the way, I can hit the Q and E keys as long as my keyboard bindings are default to go up and down floors without having to click those buttons at the top here. So I'm going to do at least one more floor. I think let's do one more. Yes, we have to have an awesome tower. And there we go. All right. So the last thing we got to add to finish the actual structure of this home is the roof. We'll talk about everything else in a moment, but let's add a roof here. I'm thinking that we've got a bunch of different roof options, and most of them will automatically fit the space. I thought this would look good, but boy, that sure looks terrible. Let's delete that. What other options can we play with? We might try a peaked mansard. I don't know what that means, but here it is. That actually looks all right. You can see that on any of these roofs, there's a bunch of options for the kinds of things that I can edit. Anything marked with an arrow can be changed. That actually looks okay. I might go with that. Oh, that's kind of cool. I didn't even know about this little middle section. And by the way, you can add multiple sections of roof that all play together. But right now, I'm just going with one. I think, let me see some of these other options. I was originally thinking this auto fit roof is what I would want, which sort of just matches the geometry. Honestly, I don't love it. I'm just going to delete that. And I think I'll go back to what I had before. Which one was that? Wait, it was not that one. Oh yeah, how could I forget the mansard or something? Somebody tell me how to pronounce that in the comments. Okay, here's our roof. I think this is what I'll go with. All of you are welcome to improve my tower in the future, which you also can do. Let me mess with that middle section. Okay, there we go. So we have the full structure of the house. And so now you've seen all the tools that allow us to build sort of the walls and roofing of the house. But let's actually get into customizing the interior a little bit now. Now that we have our lot structure done, we can actually build the thing up and start painting it. Before I do that, I want to add, I have this particular idea. Part of the reason that I made this multi-story octagonal lot is because I want to have a central staircase going up the middle. So I'm going to select my spiral staircase here and kind of count out the best place for it to be. And I'm going to just fiddle with this a bit until it's in the exact right spot. And then once I have it in the right spot, I can just go up to the next floor and add a second spiral staircase section to continue the spiral. Now, something I realized while playing with this is I do need to leave a gap, basically a landing, in the spiral staircase. Otherwise, the character won't actually be able to exit this staircase. Once I have it on the second floor, I can add it to the third floor, and that'll make it so that all 4 floors are now accessible via spiral staircase. I'll also go ahead and add an internal room here. If I wanted to, I could use this internal room tool in the walls editor to add rooms on the inside of the house now. I could do that for bedrooms and bathrooms and offices and anything else that we feel like might need to be added. In this case, I have a vision for this where most of the rooms are just designated by floors. You're just walking up the staircase. I do, however, want to section off one section of this second floor here just with a single wall so that we can stick a bathroom in there and people can have some privacy. Once I've done that, it's time to move on and start painting. The texture tool or paint tool in the top left of the screen there allows you to put a texture on anything that allows textures, which is generally walls, roofs, and floors, but there's also some other stuff. For instance, our spiral staircase will actually allow some textures as well. I was thinking I would go with brick for this one, and I actually was thinking I might try purple brick. That looks terrible. Okay, not purple brick. I was thinking I would go with regular brick then. And honestly, yeah, that looks okay, I guess. For the outside, I was definitely thinking I would go with some kind of purple. Let me play with colors here. And by the way, whenever I find a color I like, I can hit the plus button under that custom colors section there, and that will save the color for me to my local machine. So anytime I'm editing from here on out, I'll have that color available for me to use. So I can kind of set some colors I like and reuse them over and over again. Feels like this sort of purple plaster that I'm going with works pretty well. I am twiddling with the colors a bit, but I'm liking that for the exterior. For the interior, I have a different idea. There's this sort of hexagonal pattern that I really like, and I've also tried it in purple before, and I really love it in purple, and y'all know I like me some purple, so we're going to go with the purple. Did I say purple enough in the past couple of sentences? I'm going to use this sort of hexagonal texture, this sort of almost floral pattern maybe, with the purple color. I'm going to do that on all interior walls. Now you'll see the button in the top left there, the sort of wall-looking button. Either turns walls on or off, hides the walls, or shows the walls. If I show the walls, that'll make it a little bit easier for me to paint up the interior walls here, especially for a room like this that's a little bit more complicated. So now I can paint all of my interior walls. Now that I've done the interiors of the house, the last thing to do is the floor. Now, I just need to make sure that I have a paintable floor ready first. And all I actually have to do in order to add that is to click on one of my floors that is not yet set yet. And it will ask if I want to create interior floors. And I'll just go ahead and say yes. And that will actually make floors for the entire building that are inside of any walls. And that's how I add floors. Once I've done so, I can use the texture application tool, again, the paintbrush tool, on any floors that have been added to paint those up as well. I can also do the roof here, and much like anything else, I can apply the different textures as well as colors to my roof. You'll also notice that different roof types have different sections that can be painted. The type that I use just happened to have this peak that's painted separately, so I could paint that its own color. Now, I actually sort of struggled here to try to find a roof that I liked, and honestly, in the end, I still don't love my roof, so please feel free to download this mod and then edit it yourself and then re-release it as, like, Willem's Better Potion Shop or something, because I never liked this roof, but here it is. It's a roof, but the texture tool applies here just the same. And now that we've done textures on the whole building, we can start adding doors and windows. Doors and windows are both very self-explanatory. I don't think I'll need to explain them much. Basically, you pick the options you like. I'm really loving this sort of round door. It feels very fantastical and magical, very much my vibe. And I'm just going to stick that into a spot that looks right. I'm going to add one more door up here for the bathroom. I'm thinking of this sort of natural wooden one. And then I'm going to move on to adding windows. Windows are much the same. I add a window, and then I place it in a spot that looks good. And as long as I have my snapping option selected, they will mostly fall into a good place on walls that can fit them. I can also, once I have multiple windows, just click that duplicate button, and that'll make it a lot easier for me to put multiple windows across the entire house. Now, as I finish up these windows, some options I didn't mention. Up there in the top right, I can actually play with what time of day it is. So I can see my house in different times of day. And you'll also see those two different camera icons at the top. That allows me to look in sort of a two-dimensional flat view versus an orthogonal view, which is what we're looking at right now, more of a 3D top-down view. All right, so you can see that I played with the textures a little bit. I really liked, I wound up going with this floor that I think is really cool. And I changed the outside textures a little bit to make it look better. And I added windows to everything. The last thing I want to talk about is the objects editor, which is exactly what it looks like. Y'all have actually already seen this in the game. I can add any object, which is something that exists in the world, but is not a wall, like this trash can, for instance. And I can place that trash can anything I want. Now, you'll notice, by the way, that there's these little green footprints. These are what we call routing slots. Any object that has interactivity will also have a routing slot. And you just want to make sure those slots are green, because that indicates that a character will still be able to interact with them. If the routing slot shows red, that'll mean that this object is somehow blocked and your character won't be able to interact with them. A few other things to call out about the object editor. You can see that I can select a room in particular that I want to get objects for, such as my living room or office. There's also subcategories in most of those categories, such as bedside desks or beds or lamps or anything like that. And I can also just search if there's something in particular that I really want, such as a display piece or these cute little pillars or anything along those lines. The very last thing that I'm going to show you before we time-lapse and finish this up is the Object Editor tab. You'll notice in the top right of any lot, there is the Lots tab, and then there is the Objects tab. That Objects tab is just a little extra piece of functionality that we added that allows us to change settings of already placed objects. So if I click over into the Objects tab, we'll notice that we're able to select any of the objects that are on this lot. We can also actually place objects from here, which allows us to do a couple of special things. They aren't snapped to the grid this way, and that gives us some extra functionality as well. The main thing you're going to care about, though, is these options that are available on every single object. For the most part, they're always going to be the same, but there is one thing that I want to show in particular, which is this lot shop and then shop lists. The lot shop is set on the lot, and if you remember, we defaulted this to just the cafe, but we can make our own shops, which I'll show you in just a moment. We can also, though, select which list every object should be selling from. That list is just a group of objects set by this shop that can be sold. So for instance, on this like tea display thing, I can pick a shop list that makes sense for it, including these tea bags. So I could make it so that if you click on this display, the only thing you can buy are tea bags. And that's a bit of how I get some like persona and character into a store, and how I make it so that players can buy from this location. So that's everything I'm going to show you about the lot editor for the most part. What I'm going to do now is actually time lapse to finish up this lot, so you can see a fully completed lot with a bunch of cool functionality. Here we go. All right, so here is our completed wizard stand tower thing, potion store thing. Fun fact for you, this is actually the second time I recorded this because the first lot I made, I was ashamed of and decided it was not good enough for all of you. And so I made it again. I hope you like it. I decided to make this sort of like new agey, like relaxing potion store kind of thing. So the first floor here actually has all kinds of displays where you can actually purchase goods. Characters can come here and actually buy and sell things. There's also a counter for the employee to work behind and other goodies like that. On the second floor, I made it a kind of rest area where you can sit, maybe read some books or just relax. And of course, the all-important bathroom. The third floor here is probably my favorite. This is the study. Has some places to sit, nice little Himalayan salt lamp on a beautiful hardwood desk, all kinds of books and shelves. I also just love this lamp that I reused a bunch. And then finally, on the last floor, there is the bedroom. So this is, where our character will go to sleep at the end of the night. Our wicked wizard, when they're tired of selling potions and making people's lives better, they come up here and fall asleep. So that is our completed lot. We're now going to load it into the world, but before then I want to give you a brief intro on how to make your own store so that you start to get some ideas of the kinds of things you'll make once you get your hands on this game. So if you remember, we set this lot to be selling from the Main Street Cafe, but we can actually sell anything we want here. We can make our own store that sells anything that exists in the game, including objects like beds and bookshelves and items like food ingredients and things like that. All we have to do that is go into the item editor. The item editor is where we make items. An item is something that doesn't have a physical form, so it's not a bed or something, but is instead like an ingredient or a collectible from one of our troves. We're not going to talk much about the item editor right now. Instead, I'm going to go straight to the shops tab in the top right there. And this is where all of our shops live, including the Main Street Cafe that we were looking at. And you can see here, these are the actual lists that we were selecting from. To make our own shop, we can just hit the plus button there, and we can name it anything we want. I'm going to call this Magic Potion Shop. We can play with some of the settings, such as how rare different items will appear here. So we could make it so that ultra rare stuff appears in this store. And then that important shops list is the next important part. I can hit the green plus button to add any list of items. And then I can hit the green plus button in the shop list items section to select any items that I want to be available for sale in that list. Now, we don't actually have any potions in the game. That maybe is a ripe area for somebody to make some cool mods for. So I'm going to go with some wine. Because that's basically a potion, right? I will select that and add that to our list here. And now all of those will be available for sale. I could also maybe add another list, maybe potion ingredients, which we have all kinds of stuff for. We've got like wildflowers though, which is what I'll go for the example here. And now this list of wildflowers will be available for sale under the potion ingredients section that you can then hook up in your lot. So this is how you could make a custom store that sells exactly what you want it to sell. But let's move on and get this thing available in the world and actually playing with it. This means it's now finally time to see my lot in real life and actually play with it. Before I exit out of the editor menu, I'm going to go ahead and make sure my Wicked Wizard outfit there is selected as well. You can run multiple mods at the same time, and I want to make sure my wizard gets to experience this tower. So I'm going to hit new game. I can add this lot to any world. So even if I loaded game, I'd be able to do this, but I never save my worlds because I'm working on this game. So I'm just going to hit new game. And then from within this menu, I'm going to select this character here and choose their outfit. I'll hit the edit button, and then I'll go to my wardrobe section and then to pre-created outfits and then select casual. And if you watched the last video, you know where this is going. Here is our amazing Wicked Wizard outfit. And it looks like we have to pull off their jacket so you can see the undershirt. And there we go. We have our beautiful wizard character, and then we can go ahead and hit play and load into our world. Once the world has loaded up, we can add our lot to the world. Now, I have actually already shown you how we're going to do this. We're going to do this through the live edit mode, which by default is the F4 key on your keyboard. If you click that, you'll enter live edit mode, which is an incredibly powerful tool, something that we're very excited to share with all of you, where you can actually place objects and many other things live, actually as the game runs, and even make changes about them live as the game runs. So I could just stick an armchair up there in the hills. Why not? One of the things I can edit in live edit mode, though, is lots. I can delete, move, or add entirely new lots to the world by clicking that green plus button. You guessed it. Once I have my lot selected, I can find a place to put it. I actually would have put it here, but there's an empty lot here. It actually wouldn't be a problem. I could just place 2 lots on top of each other. There's no problem with that, but I'll find another spot for it. It doesn't line up very well over here, which we could play with and make correct, but just for the sake of making this video brief, I think I'll stick it on this hill right here, actually. This is a pretty cool spot for sort of a wizard tower. You'll notice, by the way, that the trees automatically get cleared when you place a lot. So that way you don't have any problems with trees clipping through the buildings. And now we have our lot placed. I kind of love the section for it. We are like right on the edge of this hill right here, which means we're going to have issues walking through the door. So I may even move this back a little bit so we don't have any issues. So now that the lot is placed, it's a totally normal building from here on out. So I can interact with all kinds of stuff on the inside of this space now. I can have my character actually purchase from these different displays. We can walk up and interact with the computer, maybe shop online like we see there. And we can use this space like any other lot. We can, of course, for instance, go upstairs to the second floor and interact with everything we placed up there as well. Perhaps we have a nice sit here, rest our weary feet from that big staircase, and oh man, look at that. That looks great. One of the things we do on the design team here to stay inspired and be excited about the game is we take pictures every day and share them with each other of stuff that we make in the game. That's going to be my picture of the day. That's like a really good shot. I love that, having her cross her legs and everything like that. There's the bathroom. Bathroom's pretty self-explanatory. I don't think I need to talk about that at all. We can go up to the next floor into the study. At this point, this is basically just a showcase of the location. Y'all know how the game plays. You don't really need me to tell you much here. I can interact with any of the interactable objects in any ways that they're normally interactable. As long as I've kept those routing slots clear, there shouldn't be any problems with me interacting with anything. I could, for instance, just take a nap here and be done and proud of my beautiful second version of this lot. All right, so that is actually it. That is everything I'm going to teach you how to do in this video. I hope you enjoyed. I am really excited by this version of my Magic Wizard stand. I still find the roof absolutely atrocious, so I give you 100% permission to take this lot when you get your hands on the mod manager and just destroy the roof and make it more pretty. Please do it. And tell me what you do. But besides that, my building is done. I'm going to give you a little bit of a closing here. So first and foremost, as I say every video, don't forget your mod helpers. You can go into our Discord, for instance, and ask about how modding works or troubleshoot with us there. There's also going to be an FAQ soon, and there are other videos available for you to help you learn how to mod Life by You. In addition, we're going to be next video talking about regions. So next video, we're actually going to build an entire town of lots. I hope you're excited for that one. That one's pretty dang cool, and is another one that I think all of you will be able to play around with a lot. The lot editor is one of my favorites because I predict this is where we're going to get a lot of really cool stuff from all of you with. We're going to see cool objects and cool items and cool characters, but I feel like the main thing we're going to see that really blows people away is beautiful, interesting lots that everyone creates for each other. All right, I do have a design challenge for all of you before we wrap up this video, and it's a very simple one. I want you to draw out on a piece of paper a lot that you want to create. That could be just a house, but it also could be something like a little mini theme park or a graveyard, or what else might we have? Like some kind of play area or jungle house or something like that. Design something interesting, a lot or a hotel or a store or a cafe, draw it out on a piece of paper, and then once you get your hands on the actual game, maybe give it a shot. Build yourself a custom lot and share it with the other wonderful players of Life by You so that you can bring this to life in your own games. All right, that's going to do it. This has been Willem Delventhal, one of the game designers on the team. I hope you enjoyed. Next video, we're going to talk about region editing, and we'll see you then. Goodbye now.